Let's move over to wide receivers with waivers. And Matthew, I think this is the last time we're going to start with Josh Downs because he's now 52% available. If he's still out there in your league, somehow use the fab. But realistically, it's over.
If he's still out there in your league, you play in the league of great guys. Like the complete opposite of our league.
The league of zombies.
Yeah. League of great guys.
The league of the blind, where the one-eyed man is king.
That's exactly right.
You could be that king.
You play in a league of the blind. You play in a league of, passively interested managers. Josh Downs has at least 25% target share in every single game he's had since he returned. He's averaging over 19 fantasy points per game the past 3 weeks. He's had at least 15 fantasy points in all three. Now, I do think he goes down a little bit with the return of Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen says it's not going to be Joe Flacco. It is not going to be last year's comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco. It is going to be Anthony Richardson under center. But still, Josh Downs, I think, is super talented. Connor, you've called this and you've said this for quite a while. Him, not Michael Pittman or anybody else, he's the most talented guy on this team.
He's just so good at generating separation, which means Anthony Richardson's going to have to be on top of things and get the ball out to him. Now, when they did play together when Downs was a rookie for those 2 games, things looked good. So hopefully they can keep that going. But I definitely agree, Matthew. There's a little bit of a downgrade when it goes from Flacco to Richardson specifically for Downs. But Jay, the schedule, it's solid, but I feel like Downs is relatively schedule-proof with the role he plays in the offense.
I think so. As we mentioned, it's a downgrade going to Richardson. And, there's no one who dislikes Joe Flacco more than I do on planet Earth. But I will concede, he gives the Colts a better chance to win now than Anthony Richardson. Where Flacco got ruled in by surprise against the Titans, line immediately moved towards the Colts.
Yeah.
Anthony Richardson, they should be playing him. He's the future. He gives them a better chance at long-term success. But Flacco right now, he is the guy, and it's just as a pocket passer, he's just so much more refined. So we need to see it between Richardson and Downs, but the talent there is such. And also Michael Pittman, like the nagging back injury doesn't help. Even though Pittman caught an amazing touchdown, did not seem to have any issues with his back on that one.
But either way, Downs is. I would also say, by the way, Downs would be our number one pickup of all players. Like if he is somehow still available in your league, he'd be my number one pickup over any of the running backs here. Let's move to the Packers wide receivers. I think both guys. The injury to Dontavian Wicks looks like it's going to be week to week, and so again that opens up some target share. Christian Watson, fully healthy according to everyone, including his father, has now scored in both full games with Jordan Love under center this season. His last 14 games with Jordan Love under center, dating back to last year, Christian Watson has 18 end zone targets, ran a route on 72% of his routes last week as well. So Christian Watson, who is somehow available in 59% of leagues, becomes very interesting. I prefer him to Romeo Doubs, but I think both guys need to be picked up. Doubs out there in 65% of leagues. He's played 3 games this year with Jordan Love. He's gotten at least one red zone target, I should say, in every game. 89% route participation for Doubs as well. Again, with Dontavian Wicks out with an injury, it becomes very simple. This is a fantasy-friendly, good quarterback team that has Jaden Reed in the slot and Watson and Doubs on the outside. And so they're going to go 3 wide a decent amount. Tucker Kraft's always a threat in the red zone, but yeah, Watson and Doubs are both viable going forward, especially as long as Wicks is out.
One quick note on Wicks, the latest from Packers head coach Matt LaFleur on his shoulder. We'll give him the week and see where he's at. I just know it's always a concern when you have a player that can't go back in the game, so keep an eye on that one. Jay, Chiefs wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster, yes, waiver wire relevant, only 67% available. He's got the 49ers after a week against the Saints where he has 130 yards receiving.
So here's how I would look at Juju as kind of a concept, the Juju concept. 2 years ago, when Patrick Mahomes won MVP, I think unanimously or close, and was the number 1 fantasy quarterback, Juju Smith-Schuster, as the number 1 wide receiver who was healthy the whole season, finishes wide receiver 27, 11.6 fantasy points per game. Juju was 2 years younger. This offense was more explosive and just more productive of yards. So I think that is realistically the best possible end outcome for Juju, right? That he's wide receiver 27. And I don't think that's probably realistic that he gets there because just with this offense not humming the way that it was back then with Juju being older, he played 52% of the snaps 2 games ago. Last game against the Saints, 67%. So I get it with Juju. Like he's the number 1 wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. And I think that he might be a viable flex guy, but I'm not sure there's that much ceiling here. And I think that ultimately it's going to be more oriented, this offense, to Kelsey and Worthy as the deep threat.
I guess I'm going to paint a slightly more rosy picture. And maybe it's because I just picked him up in our League of Assholes because I'm so desperate. But the fact is like he had the second highest target share in Week 5, a 23.5% target share, 130 receiving yards last game, were the most by a Kansas City wide receiver since Tirico in 2021. And I would argue that the makeup of the Chiefs' wide receiver room this year is different than it was 2 years ago, where they had more veteran guys, they had more sort of options. Kelsey was also 2 years younger.
Kelsey's better. Yep,
you know what I mean? And this year they have no run game, right? I mean, it's, you know, they're rolling out Kareem Hunt or whatever, and Juju can run all the routes that Rashee Rice, in terms of what their offense has become and the way teams are defending them. They're having to take all that underneath stuff much more frequently, and so Juju, because he doesn't have that explosiveness, actually could. He was running all the Rashee Rice routes.
Same exact style.
He's playing it just not as good. But I think volume, like, I would argue this. He's the number one wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes. And even though that statement doesn't have as much value as it did 2 years ago, there's still a decent amount of value in that statement. Quickly want to move over to Pop Douglas, to Mario Douglas. Had a 29% target share, including a season-high 9.7 average depth of target. He's had 3 games this year with at least a 20% target share, and in those games he's averaging 16 fantasy points per game. Drake May has given this offense a lift to make it, I don't know that it's fantasy relevant, but at least it's competent.
Some deep league wide receiver waiver targets. Darius Slayton, of course, has been a popular ad while Malik Neighbors has been out. Hopefully Malik Neighbors is ready to go this week against the Eagles.
Please.
Michael Wilson against the Chargers. He caught a touchdown last week. Xavier Legette also caught a touchdown. He's got the Commanders' secondary, which has been a good matchup for wide receivers all year. Rashad Bateman against the Bucks. Tutu Atwell against the Raiders. Bub Means, baby! Bub Means, the pride of Pittsburgh. He's got the Broncos. One quick note on the Rams.
Thursday night. And Thursday night, Alavi in the concussion protocol. Shaheed.
Knee
injury that popped up yesterday. So Bub Meem's going to be out there. He got a 21% target share. So again, if you're desperate, not a great matchup with the Broncos defense, but you know, if you're desperate, if you're in a league like we are, Bub Means will be picked up tonight.
Yeah, probably no Satan in that game.
Satan has a concussion as well. To recap, Matthew's Week 7 top wide receiver waiver targets, of course, Josh Downs, if he's still out there, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs of that Packers wide receiver room, Juju Smith-Schuster against the Niners, Pop Douglas against Jacksonville, now the Drake May.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.